Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Asadullah Ali of the Andalusian project, and I'm just coming at you right now with sort of an informal video, a postscript for iJihad Episode 4, which just came out. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to look at some comments and attempted refutations, or initial refutations, of Episode 4 by a bunch of ex-Muslims on this popular ex-Muslim forum on Reddit. And the reason I'm doing this is because I really want to kind of showcase the mentality that I'm dealing with here on the internet, and to showcase a lot of fallacious reasoning so that you guys will really understand, sort of the anti-Islamic fervor and where it's coming from. Not only that, but you can kind of also see that a lot of these ex-Muslims really have no good reasons for being ex-Muslims. And I guess a further reason that I'm doing this is because I really want to show you guys, like, just the ludicrous nature of the narratives that they push. So Abu Ren's going to be joining me today to look at these comments. We're going to start with the most ridiculous ones first, just for fun, and then we'll look at some more that are a little bit more rational, more coherent, and address those as well. That said, this is really, like I said, it's going to be an informal video. I'm not going to take it too seriously, but of course the arguments, the counter responses that I use will be valid and sound. So don't worry about that. We will have a little bit of fun though. Let's see what we got here first. Okay, comment number 1 from Fazuz Ashrut, 18 points. So 18 people thought this was a good comment. Okay, just remember that. That was a huge waste of time. He didn't refute anything at all. In fact, he doesn't deny most things, but says something like, but some other interpretations said it differently. But you used that hadith instead of another hadith. But in the English translation, it used another word. Okay, let's just stop there real quick. No. None of this happened in that 1 hour video. But some other interpretations said it differently. Actually, no, that wasn't the case. Never said that once. What I did say was I used the Master Arab's very own references to refute him. So it wasn't alternative interpretations or this interpretation said it differently. It was the very thing that the Master Arab was using to back his own points, refuting him. It wasn't an alternative interpretation. I don't even know where this is coming from. But you used that hadith instead of another hadith. I never complained about that. In fact, I consider all of the Master Arab's hadith to be sound. I have no problem with them. I do believe that one needs to be, has to use various hadith to get the full understanding of what's going on, but I never complained about him using hadith. Next he said, but in the English translation it uses another word. No, never even said that, not once. Nope. Didn't even make any sort of argument even close to that. So I have no idea what this guy is watching, because that wasn't even my video. And then this gets really funny. He goes on, and then like every other Muslim accuses him of being fake or some Jew in disguise. Are you serious? I don't think I even mentioned once in that video that the Master was somehow fake or a Jew. I don't even consider Jew to be an insult. Are you serious? Now, I did call the Master Arab a coward because it was very obvious that, he lacks integrity and that he's very dishonest. I also called him dishonest, but none of those ever happened. Funny being accused of being a Jew by Abrahamic lunatics. Funny being accused of accusing people of being a Jew by someone who claims to be rational. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. I seriously don't know what's wrong with this guy. Okay, next one. National Marxist. Oh, this is going to be good. He's a joke. He doesn't refute anything. And then one of the more rational ex-Muslims jumps in. I don't know, man. Everything he said checks out. Good job, man. Good job. You know the truth. Even though you're an ex-Muslim, I was being right. I had presented valid and sound arguments. That I showed evidence for my position. So obviously there's no funny business going on here. Then the response is hilarious. It doesn't prove Allah's existence now, does it? Dun, dun, dun. Are you joking? Talk about a red herring just flying out of nowhere. I mean, this is like a red herring, like you dropped a bomb from like Mars. I mean, are you serious? Like that far of left field? the point of the whole video wasn't even to prove Allah's existence. It was to refute claims that Islam supports terrorism. I mean, I don't even know what to say here. How ludicrous can you be? I mean, I have no idea what to say to this. It is that stupid. Okay, let's move on to another one, because I can't fathom, the ignorance here. Oh, this one is great. By Not a Throwaway 345. Really, not a throwaway. Well, sorry to break it to you, son, but you're about to get thrown away here. Okay, 1 entire hour to refute the masked Arab. LOL. Really? Seriously? This is the problem here with a lot of these so-called rationalists, these so-called free thinkers. They can't stand it when something is too lengthy. They think it somehow like invalidates the arguments being used. Although, they'll post for hours on Reddit or Facebook or Twitter, trying to refute people. And, they'll watch the Masked Arabs series on ISIS and Islam for like an hour, because, if you combine all of those videos together, it's roughly over an hour or so. But, when somebody refutes them, oh no, it's too long now. It's evidence of intellectual laziness, to be honest. 1 entire hour to refute. You know why? Because there's a lot of nonsense in those 20 minutes of videos that I critiqued. Sorry to break it to you. I apologize. 1 hour. Goodness me. I'm really sorry. It hurts your brain cells. I know you can't think beyond a meme, right? No wonder. All right, moving on. Oh, by Manahoralax. Is it? Oh, it's Manahoralax. Is that what it is? I don't know. Either way, you can read it. Sorry, you probably shouldn't use that name. That's not good. Okay, so let's look at this. All this tells me is that the most qualified scholars and their commentaries contradict each other. I guess no one can understand the Quran. Semi-sad face. Oh, goodness me. Really? Is this really what you got from this? Really? Is that how desperate you are? That this is all you got from it? Instead of the fact that the masked Arab, someone who a lot of ex-Muslims look up to, and even Islamophobes look up to, the fact that he was completely disingenuous, that's not the biggest problem here. No, a lot of people can understand the Quran. There are many meanings behind certain passages, but many people can understand the Quran. There's a vast consensus on many particular interpretations. It just, when it comes to fiqh, Islamic law, there are certain nuances involved. That said, the idea that, scholars, they disagree, therefore nobody can understand the Quran, that's extremely and utterly fallacious. No, it just means that there are various opinions. It doesn't mean that all opinions are absolutely valid and sound. It doesn't mean that everyone is right. There can be people who are wrong and people who are right. It happens. Okay? In every field, in every religion, every ideology, every political ideology, every moral ideology, every economic ideology, every ideology you can think of, there are various interpretations of what those ideologies teach and how to interpret certain texts from the founding fathers of those ideologies, etc. There are not just one interpretation of democracy. But no, you don't see people complaining about that. There's not one interpretation of particular moral codes or meta-ethical theories. Some people are utilitarian, some people are pragmatic, some people hold to virtue ethics, etc. They're not saying now, that means that morality doesn't exist because people have different opinions on it. Or there's not one, right moral code. Like, nobody says that. And the people who there are people who say that, but they're stupid, and they're typically postmodernist. You can't have the fact that you have an opinion on morality showcases that you believe that there are certain truths behind that. In the same way, you can say about religion, just because people have different interpretations does not necessitate that people can't understand, or that there is no understanding behind the Quran. Now, maybe he didn't say that, maybe he didn't infer all this, but this is typically why these sort of responses are made. And it's really intellectually lazy and quite pathetic, to be honest. And at the same time, when they're attacking Islam, then all of a sudden, they have the true understanding there, So let's move on to another comment. Okay, next by Southern9. Okay, Southern9. Some of the Master Arab's claims had some fishy English need to learn. Okay, yeah, well, at least he admits that there was something wrong with the Master Arab's views, even though he only says some when it's like most of them. But anyways, he goes on, but it doesn't change the fact that the Quran has verses directed for violence, and the popular narrative of Islamic history was violent. Oh, really? Okay, who cares if it doesn't change the fact that the Quran has verses directed for violence? Of course the Quran has verses directed for violence. It's called reality, bro. I don't know if you've looked, if you've stepped outside of your home, but yeah, of course the Quran has verses directed for violence because there are going to be violent people in the world. A religious text that doesn't have verses directed for violence is not really a religious text that deals with reality. I really don't ever understand this. I feel like a lot of ex-Muslims play this pacifist card. Oh yeah, we're all a bunch of pacifists. We're angels, and we will never hurt a soul. We will never step on a bug. It's like, really? Are you serious? And, I think they only play this card when they're attacking Islam. But, when it comes to everything else, oh, no. Just war is perfectly fine, as long as the Muslims don't do it. Nudge, nudge. This is really what it is. It's pathetic. I really cannot believe, oh my God, the Quran talks about war. Oh no, it's violent. Man up. Get, a thicker skin. Okay, the world is not, roses and daisies. Okay, you have to fight sometimes to survive, to, stand up for things, to protect people you love. Okay, I don't understand it. This is so ridiculous. Continuing on, and the popular narrative of Islamic history was violent. What does that even mean? Yeah, it was violent. There were a lot of wars in Islamic history, and most of them were primarily defensive. And you know this because if you know history, which many ex-Muslims don't, because I have no idea why. I think most people don't really know much about history, and they don't really care because I think science is the only thing you need to understand in order to comprehend the world around you. Yeah, we need to learn biology to learn about politics. People are ignorant of history. And if you knew anything about this period of time, or even prior to the past 100 years, okay, you would know that every civilization was an empire. And what does that mean? Well, let me give you some clues. What do you think the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire were doing prior to the Muslims? Where do you think they got all that territory from? What selling Girl Scout cookies? I mean, what were they doing? Asking people to give up their land, or were they violently conquering everyone around them? This is what the Muslims had to deal with when they finally became a stable, unified society. They looked around them. They were surrounded by two empires who were more than willing to conquer them when they felt like it. At the time, they were fighting each other, so it really wasn't, on their list of things to do, but they were very much interested in conquering Arabia when the time came. So this idea that somehow, the Muslims just randomly one day decide, let's go kill some infidels. No, that's not how it worked. Okay. A very different world back then. War was the default. I mean, if you signed a peace treaty, then you would be ensured of your safety. But, prior to that, basically you would already know that you're at war with this person because those empires were ready to fight you and take your land. And you had to be prepared to fight them, or, you're basically going to be wiped off the face of the earth. It's and the fact that, this is such a common sense thing if you just read history. It's not even it's not even controversial. It's not even apologetics. It's common sense fact. And the fact that I have to continuously repeat this to individuals who are, incessantly telling everyone else how rational and knowledgeable they are, I want to hit my head against a brick wall. Okay. Oh my God. Next. Grappling with truth. Actually, he's a decent guy. But he still says some things here that I don't really agree with. So let's get through this. A worthy rebuttal by an intelligent person that still falls short. Well, thank you very much. It is a worthy rebuttal, and I appreciate you calling me intelligent. However, I don't understand why you think it falls short. Let's see what you say. This does not explain why Allah sent a book that can be so easily misinterpreted. Many other deeper issues have yet to be addressed. Really? I hear this a lot about how everything can be so easily misinterpreted, how a divine text has to be some sort of like when it comes down, not only does it have to be clear, but everyone has to agree with it in the same way, regardless of whether or not they're free thinking, regardless of whether or not they have certain desires, etc. What I mean to say is, this sort of rebuttal does not take into account that people have different levels of understanding, that some people just don't want to understand, literally. I mean, there are people out there who really, honestly do not care to understand. Looking at some of the previous comments and some of the future comments, you'll notice that. Some people are just more obsessed with their desires than anything else. And, people's stupidity somehow doesn't play a part in this. Look, you can make the clearest argument, the most logically valid, the most logically sound argument in existence, okay? And there will still be people out there, no matter what, who will refuse to accept it for various reasons, whether it be cognitive dissonance or some sort of desire they have, or, wanting to stick with their traditions, their family, or some sort of loyalty. This is a human trait for people to deny facts, okay? There is a reason that flat earthers exist, all right? And it's not because, the fact that the earth is round is somehow a difficult concept to understand, okay? It's not. All right, a child can understand it. But for some reason, there are people out there who are so skeptical of the scientific consensus that they literally believe in a flat earth, okay? Now, you can say, well, but it's a divine text. Divine text means that everyone needs to understand. Allah needs to force it onto everyone's head. Free will, what is that? This is such an intellectually lazy response, because as far as I'm concerned, like I said, it doesn't take into account people's free will, people's levels of understanding, people wanting to understand or not. It blames everything on the text itself. Now, is it possible that a text can be badly written and be so vague that it can't be understood? Yes. But I mean, come on. Even in the video, it wasn't even difficult. For God's sake, I just had to quote. Like, when I went to the masked Arabs references, it was like a couple of pages apart. It was not difficult to understand. Are you serious? Is this really hard for you? Is it so difficult to understand what the Quran says for you? Is it really? Or are you making it difficult? I don't get it. It's like the easiest book I have ever read. I'm sorry to say. It's complex, but complexity does not necessitate difficulty. Okay. It is so easy to read. It's so easy to understand. It's not like you look at it and go, oh my God, what's going on? No, that's not what happens. Okay. Now, is it possible that you might have various interpretations in your mind and you want to but when you look at the Quran holistically and you look at the commentaries and you look at the hadith and stuff, it's not difficult. It literally takes me like 5 minutes to look up some of these interpretations. It's not even hard. Why is this even a rebuttal? This does not explain why Allah sent a book that can be so easily misinterpreted. Is it so easily misinterpreted because it's badly written, or that because it's not clear, or is it so easily misinterpreted because people generally want to be stupid? And I'm saying that frankly because it seems to me that they do. It seems to me nowadays especially, people only want to understand like a meme. They don't want anything beyond a meme. If it's not presented in a meme format, it's not worthy of consideration. I don't take this. I have no respect for this sort of rebuttal. It just makes no sense to me. I am not a genius. So if I can understand these things so easily, what's stopping you? Really? You guys, apparently, a lot of you ex-Muslims are atheists, so apparently you're the most intelligent people on the planet. So why are you having such a hard time? I don't get it. Let's move on to what I consider to be the more coherent responses here. I think there's some more ridiculous ones too, but let's just look at these first. Hijaz Hermit. Interesting. Okay, well, this is not a very intelligent response, but let's just look at it anyway. I'm just going to call it. The guy who narrates the Andalusian project will be a future ex-Muslim by 2025. Oh, crystal ball. Awesome. I thought you guys didn't believe in magic. All right. He goes on to say, you can't have structured arguments without eventually experiencing cognitive dissonance. Really? That doesn't make any sense, bro. having a structured argument means that you think more coherently, so you shouldn't have cognitive dissonance, right? Now, I can understand if you had like structured arguments over here and then you kind of like believed a lot of irrational stuff over here, but if I'm consistent with structured arguments, no cognitive dissonance there, bro. He's very well spoken, naturally, because I'm educated. Yeah. I worked for that. I didn't just like wake up one day and go, hey, I lack belief in God, therefore I'm intelligent. I actually went to university. I read a lot. Things like this. Seems to value integrity. Yep, that's the academic standard. And claims to dislike mental gymnastics. Actually, I hate that term in and of itself. I hate that phrase. I think it's ridiculous. Mental gymnastics. To me, that just sounds like, it's too complex for me to understand. Therefore, you must be, doing something wrong. That's basically what it translates to me. I mean, I understand how it's being used for like overly convoluted, like post hoc rationalizations, but it gets thrown around all the time. Like mental gymnastics is everything that I disagree with. Basically, that's what it's been used for. So, a lot of you out there who want to use the term mental gymnastics for people like me who like to use facts and logic, well then, great. I'm glad that I'm committing mental gymnastics because at least one of us is doing something with our brain. Anyways, moving on. But he simply doesn't have the arguments on his side. Oh, really? Can you point that out? I'd love to see it. And for a meticulous person like him, I know it slightly tugs at his soul. It tugged on my soul too. Oh, big group hug. Yeah, don't flatter yourself. Oh, he goes on. I would assume he's in his early 20s. Nope, 32. But thanks, I appreciate that. Muslim converts seem to take a bit longer. Oh, yeah. They are exposed to an egalitarian version of Islam in the West which can be truly beautiful and in some respects superior to Christianity. But it's not the legitimate Islam of the Prophet ﷺ, unfortunately. It may take another Islamic state for him to truly appreciate his potential. Oh yeah, I need the Islamic State to tell me how awesome I am. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying here, but it's just ridiculous. First off, I wasn't exposed to that. I've always been exposed to a very balanced form of Islam. And the Islamic State didn't even shake my faith at all. Because I already read about these types a long time ago. The Khawarij, So I mean, it didn't even bother me in the least. I expected them to come. I expected them to come a long time ago, and I expected them to come right after the fact that Iraq was bombed into oblivion, because they usually come about in times of, like, fitna, times of instability. And, when you shake a person's faith to the extent of bombing their country into oblivion, killing their family members, and destabilizing their society, you can't be, surprised that some of them take more extreme interpretations. He goes on to say, on a similar subject, I love Hamza Yusuf, and I think he's starting to get tired. He's updating his webpage less and less. Oh my god, dude, you were so pretentious. Even more than me, and that's saying something. And he's starting to make the same statements of equivocation I did when I was losing steam. I'm not saying I'm stronger or superior than these guys. Actually, you are. I just seem some familiar events. Yeah, except you're trying to tell everyone that people like me and Hamza Yusuf, who are vastly more educated than you, and probably even more rational than you, are somehow going to come down to your level. Yeah, and by the way, the reason I'm being pretentious right now is because I can't believe how pretentious this comment is. Yeah, good luck, bro. By 2025, send me a note and ask me how I'm doing, okay? And I'll send one back to you and tell you I'm doing just fine. And I hope the caliphate comes back pretty soon. And I'm not talking about ISIS. I'm talking about the real one. All right, moving on. Oh, he says something else. Hijaz Hermit. When he was asked whether there was something he disagreed with in the video, he does try to give an argument here. He says, if I had to summarize this video in one sentence, it would be meticulous but lacking a clear thesis. Essentially, he is defending every alternative explanation about Islam without confronting the easier arguments. Whoa. What are you talking about? I haven't defended any alternative explanation. I simply showed what the masked Arab's own sources said on the matter. That's it. That is it. I didn't bring in something, alien into the discussion. I just used Ibn Kathir, Imam Qurtubi, and I just showed what they thought themselves on the subject. That's it, just to show how disingenuous he was being. It wasn't anything alternative about it. I mean, I don't even know where this argument is coming from. And even when he does examine tafsir further than the master Arab, he doesn't appreciate the general tone of the tafsir that supposedly favors his interpretation. For example, he will briskly read over an entire line absolutely dehumanizing disbelievers, but then he just focuses on the army part to make the weaker argument that Muhammad ﷺ was simply fighting a battle against aggressors. Yet no. No, I'm not, actually, because those verses don't even dehumanize disbelievers. Just as I pointed out with the verses in Surah 60. Those weren't dehumanizing anyone. I mean, what are you talking about? Look, I'm going to be very open and honest about these things. I have no reason to hide it. Yeah, I focus on the army part because that's what the verse says. That's what the commentary says on the matter. It doesn't say, oh, random non-Muslims walking around minding their own business. No, it's talking about armies. So what am I briskly reading over here? Or you just don't like the fact that Ibn Kathir and Imam Qurtubi said things differently than what you interpreted? I know this strategy because I used to do it all the time. Well, stop projecting your cognitive dissonance on me because that's not what's going on here. In fact, I did it in a much more pathetic way, and you're still doing it, apparently. Logic is like any weapon. You can use it to defend anything, but without substance, it goes almost nowhere. Oh, wow. Once again, projection. This whole comment is without substance. All right, moving on. Oh, this is actually probably his best refutation. So let's get through this. His strong points mainly come during the end, and they're mostly on the interpretation of a few Islamic battles. For example, he offers a decent cultural explanation for the military punishment of Badr al-Qurayza. A decent. No, that is the explanation. It's not a decent one. It just is. I have a similar unpopular point about not judging Muhammad ﷺ's supposed pedophilia with Aisha. Astaghfirullah. Well, I'm not going to even talk about your opinion on this issue, but so let's just move on. Because actually I have an article coming out about that pretty soon on Yaqeen Institute. So he goes on to say, but ultimately, Assad doesn't provide enough evidence to refute the strong thesis that Muhammad ﷺ fought battles primarily based on disbelief. Really? I don't see how I didn't offer enough evidence. Because if you can't kill, like, the majority of people, like women, children, monks, farmers, laborers, etc., people with treaties, because of their disbelief, then what makes you think that disbelief is generally the reason why people are killed and fought? You're taking a very absolute understanding of that, when the whole Quran and even the fiqh itself shows that there are so many exceptions that simply is not the case. Other passages would say, yes, we need to fight to get rid of disbelief. Yes, there are. But that does not necessitate that every disbeliever is targeted and destroyed as a result of that, which is what I was refuting in this video. So I don't really know what he's trying to say here. He says, almost every Quranic injunction is explained better when you appreciate this reason. No, not really, because then you just completely wipe out all the commentary that shows all the nuances. And you wipe out all the fiqh that makes exceptions, for people who shouldn't be killed. If you just say, oh, every disbeliever is killed because of disbelief, then you've just completely destroyed what Islam actually says on the matter. So no, it doesn't. No, nothing is explained better when you appreciate this reason. In fact, it just simplifies everything to the extent where it makes it dumber. I mean, what are you talking about? This is why the ulama have such a difficult time refuting the goal of ISIS in creating a caliphate. That's because the ulama don't want to refute ISIS regarding the caliphate, because there's no reason to do so. The caliphate is not like some bad thing in and of itself. Just because ISIS goes around claiming a caliphate doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's part of every Orthodox Muslim's faith to believe in that. Not to say that if you don't, that you're necessarily like not a Muslim, but it's one of the essential aspects of Islam is to have this structure. He goes on, at best, they merely disagree with some of their harsh practices. Merely. That's an understatement. And I have a feeling Assad internally realizes this issue. No, not at all. Doesn't bother me in the least. For example, if you fast forward to 2703, you'll notice how he skips reading the 3 offenses that allow the killing of a Muslim. Hint, one of them is becoming an apostate. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Not to hide it. Not even to be disingenuous, but because it was irrelevant to my objection at the time. And do you know what that objection was? See, if you actually heard what the Master Arab said prior to that objection, you would understand why I did that. Because the Master Arab was claiming that the Quran and the commentaries do not have any prohibition for killing a non-Muslim. So the point of me citing that part of the commentary was just to show that both Muslim and non-Muslims were prohibited to be killed for no good reason. That was it. Me adding, the fact that Muslims can be killed because of zina and stuff, that's irrelevant to the objection. So why would I even put that there? I mean, it's just nonsense. He goes on, unlike Assad's dismissal of the masked Arab's integrity, I'm not going to be that rough on him for this omission. You shouldn't be, because I wasn't twisting and manipulating the sources to make it sound like something that it wasn't. I just left it out because it was irrelevant to that particular objection. The fact that you would even... Oh my God. The fact that you would even think that what I did and what the masked Arab did is the same is just utterly ludicrous. He literally had a completely opposing opinion to the very commentaries that he was using to back his opinion. That is not even close to me leaving out that part because it was irrelevant. Do you even know what you're saying? Do you even know what you're writing? Is English like an actual language that you know how to use? Or, if it isn't, then, we can excuse this. Because, then I'll understand. There's a reasonable explanation as to why you're not getting this. But it seems to me you can write decently well. I can't really understand why you think that this is somehow the same. Perhaps when he can no longer repress it, he'll state that Muhammad ﷺ really disliked treason but had no real issue with apostasy itself. Oh God. Repress what, bro? Projection again. Been there, done that. Yeah, you've been a lot of places apparently. And none of them are stable. None of them in a stable thinking place. I treated pretty much everything because anything was better than accepting the simpler explanation. Yeah, what's ironic is that you're giving an even more complex explanation than I was. Good job. Sometimes it takes a group like ISIS to slam the Quran in your face and force you to read the book for what it is. Or maybe an education is required to understand it. Instead of, looking on Twitter and Reddit all day and reading memes. Maybe not being an intellectually lazy peasant is a better way of going about it. ISIS has nothing to do with it, I promise. All right, let's move on. Oh, neo-Marxism is evil. Oh God, I can't stand this guy, and there's a reason why. You'll find out in a second. 5 minutes in, and they guy. 5 minutes in, and they guy is already making semantic arguments. I don't feel like watching an hour of this. And you expect people to read your nonsense? You can't stand 5 minutes of something, and you want people to read what you write? Okay, so he goes on. Oh, sure, terrorism is a much more modern word than fear or terror. Who cares? That's an appeal to irrelevance. Do you even know what you're saying? Appeal to irrelevance. Appeal to irrelevance. Like, are you trying to sound smart? Because that's not what's going on here, buddy. Yeah, who cares? Let me tell you why you should care. Because when you're trying to say that because the Quran says terror, therefore it refers to an 18th century definition, that's a problem. Okay? That's a big problem. Fact is that the tactic of winning a conflict by inspiring fear, terror in an enemy has been known at least since headhunters or other Stone Age people. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, I know that. That's why I mentioned it in the video itself. But you didn't go past 5 minutes, so you didn't catch that explanation because you're too intellectually lazy to care. And it's very obvious here that because you can't look past 5 minutes of a video, which, by the way, wasn't even where my argument started. It started later than that, like in the 7th minute or even the 10th minute. The fact that I was mentioning the definition of terrorism had, that wasn't even the full argument. It was just the beginning. My God. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I suspect the rest of this video is going to be based on semantic arguments. You're wrong. And I will probably ignore the process of going from tafsir to fiqh, which is where the situational specifics get thrown out and situations are regeneralized, such as when going from fighting to specific battle. This is where he tries to sound smart by throwing in a bunch of terms that he doesn't understand. Good job. All right. Edit. There was also no such thing as a civilian at the time of Muhammad, so a concept like terrorism against civilians doesn't apply. Well, then that means that the entire series of the Masked Arab, according to you, is false. Because if you are going to admit that no such thing as a civilian existed back then you're also undermining the Masked Arab's argument. There you go. Thanks for doing my job for me. I appreciate it. Normalcy lost. Quality video. Thank you. Contrary to what I admittedly expected. What are you expecting? What, Durka Durka Muhammad Jihad? Get higher expectations, bro. Not all of us live in caves and have AK-47s. Okay. Some of us are actually quite educated. I know that blows your mind, but trust me. On the specific points that he mentioned, though, at least it appears that there is enough scholarly weight in the direction he favors. Obviously. That being said, it's worrying that many of these proclamations are in there to begin with, often with minimal context, like the I have been commanded to fight the people hadith. It's very easy for me to see how others interpret that as a call for offensive violence. Really? Maybe because people don't understand English or Arabic. I don't know. Nobody in the history of mankind, I think, has used the people as a reference to every single person on planet Earth. It's always been a very specific statement in context to a particular group of people. Like, if you say the people, most people will ask you in return, the people of what? The people of Africa, the people of Egypt, the people of Asia, the people of, the people of America, the people of, Turkey, the people of, various countries and continents. If you want to say all of people in humanity, maybe you could say the people of Earth, but you always have to put some sort of descriptive, a qualification at the end. Saying the people always refers back to a specific group of individuals that you always have to ask, well, who? Who is the people? So if anybody's looking at this hadith and going, oh, it says the people, therefore I have to fight every human being on planet Earth, then they're obviously just very dumb. It's not even a minimal context. All you have to do is read the history. Read the other hadith that are there that specify it. Why is this so difficult? I still don't get it. Why is this so difficult for a bunch of people who claim to be so rational? Why? If you are all so much smarter than me, so much more, intelligent, so, have higher IQs, because a lot of you out there, that's how you think. You think because, by virtue of being an atheist, that somehow you've been granted magical powers of intellect. Why is this so much more difficult? Why do I look at these arguments and I go, why? Oh my God, I can't believe how dumb this is. Why? Really? I mean, it's just insane. Okay, well, I think those are all the nonsense comments that I found. I'm sure there are more, but those are the ones that I really want to have time for because I think I lost a couple of brain cells reading those, really, to be honest. So I just want to thank everyone once again for supporting the video. It's gotten a really positive response, a lot of great feedback. I really tried to up the production quality on this one, so I'm hoping that you guys all liked it. And I want to thank my supporters on Patreon and PayPal as well. For those of you who want to see more content, increased quality content, and me to have more time to do this content, please support my Patreon and my PayPal, and you can find the links in the info box for that. You can also find the link in the info box for the Reddit thread if you want to just read all this nonsense. But God help you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys again. Jazakallah khaira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.